What was it like? So you're a first
First
generation.
generation. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like? The thing that came to mind was like, were you, did you have shame of your mom when you were in school bringing people home to your house? For you.
I had a lot of shame being Asian, which is like, okay, so race in America is so interesting that I've had all my life people tell me what race I am. Like people don't allow me to choose, right? So and I'll explain like when I was growing up, because I was a mixed race child, I looked more Asian. And so I did get all the names called Chink and all of this and whatever. Um, so I feel like I earned my Asian card, And so growing up, I was a little embarrassed to be Asian because I really wanted to be Black or Hispanic,
You wanted to be black or Hispanic.
because I grew up in a Black and Hispanic neighborhood.
You wanted to be fit in.
I wanted to fit in, right? And so, yeah, so I was like, if I remember going, I think I was like 10. I was like, okay, my first choice would be Mexican because nobody's picking on them. I could be Black. White, maybe, but it depends because you don't want to be a nerdy white kids. The white kids were getting picked on too. And I was like, oh, but Asians, man, we get it the worst. And so I wanted to be a dominant race, which in my mind at that time was,
Mexicans.
yeah, because I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood, to a school primarily, mostly Hispanics and African Americans, some whites too, because we were doing busing at that time. But yeah, but then I get older and go to college, and all of a sudden, all of my friends are white. Like and then I, get a career, even teaching, and even though there's like, it's probably more diverse as a career than a lot, more diverse in software engineering, I would imagine, you know. But still, all of my friends were predominantly
Where did you go
white.
to college?
Texas State, and
San
then
Marcos.
yeah, and now people they used to ask me what are you, which I actually miss that question because people just call me white now, and I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I earned my race, but and I get it because I'm white passing and whatnot, but I remember I was on a school bus, and people always wanted to know my race. And I think I was in the fifth grade. And the bus driver was letting us off the bus based on race. She was an African American woman. And so it is really funny because we are going through busing at this time. So this is like early 80s. Yeah. And she was like, okay, all the black, and this was on the east side. And so she was like, okay, all the black kids off first, then all the Mexican kids. And then
It's just like waiting.
yeah, and then
All the white kids, you're like, well, I'm still waiting.
yeah, and then I didn't know when to go.
When to go.
Yeah. Do I go when I'm like when she says all Asians are all white, and then she was irritated. She was like, well, what are you? I'm like, well, my mom's Asian, my dad's white. She was like, it's what your dad is. So whatever your dad is, that's your race.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that's not the first time I've heard it. It's whatever your dad is your race.
Really?
I heard.
I would think it's like if it's what your mom is.
When I was younger.
Actually, you know what? I would think it's like whatever the heck you think it is.
Right. And so I always was interested in, I grew up really interested in race relations in America. Like I was fascinated by it because of these experiences, not to say that I had it like, that I was deprived or anything like that, but I did notice that there was a structure here. And that, like, when I first went to, it was L.L. Campbell Elementary. I remember when I was first going, my dad sat me down and he said, I know that we're not rich, but we're going to be going to a school with kids who have a whole lot less than you. And I didn't like know what that meant, you know what I mean? Because I didn't, and but it was just interesting, like having like I still even in the because like you see power differently as a kid. You don't see power in money or status, or at least I didn't at that time because we all felt like we were poor. But and then reflecting on those experiences in the race structure and the class structure and the power structure, it's fascinating to me, So when I brought that into my history classes, I really enjoyed teaching history, teaching it from all side points, teaching I guess they would call it critical race theory, but it's just teaching history, right? It's just teaching it from the winner side and teaching it from those who weren't seen as the winners at that point, like our perspective.